This is the story of the infamous alphabet murders of the early 1970s, which occurred in Rochester, New York, a quiet little city, nothing out of the ordinary. It's the kind of place where kids were still walking to the stores by themselves, and parents weren't consistently looking over their shoulders. But then, one day, one girl goes missing, and then they find her body. The whole city kind of freezes, and it should have ended there, right? But it didn't, because then it happened again, and then again. And suddenly people noticed something weird. All the girls had matching initials from their own first and last names, and they were each found in a town starting with the same letter too. Carmen Cohen, Wanda Walkovich, Michelle Mendeza. All young, all abducted, all murdered, all left behind in different towns. Welcome to Murder We Spoke. I'm Rachel.
I'm Matt.
And today we're unraveling the unsolved case of the alphabet murders. All right, Matt. So have you ever heard of this case before?
I have, but I haven't watched anything about it at all.
Okay.
So
That sounds suspicious, man.
no, because sometimes stuff pops up
Not
in my
at all.
feed and I'm like, oh man, this sounds interesting, but it's like an hour and a half long. Or
I get
like,
it.
oh wow, this looks neat, but boy, I can't dedicate the time to this. I want something
get
that's
it.
like maybe 15 minutes. That way I can fall asleep to it, and if I miss something out of it, I could just be like, okay, well, I could go back to that and then finish the video.
I get it, because this case was a lot of information, and it actually happened like on our home turf, or like where we can relate to it.
Nearby our stomping grounds,
Yeah,
maybe.
like a stone throw away, maybe.
Like a large
you're like,
stone, like
maybe.
through a cannon launcher or something.
Yeah, it's around, but close enough. It's the closest to us that a case has been that we've gone over, at least as far as I remember. So, and this also he was never caught, so it's still very scary because they don't know.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You think like they would have something that they would have unearthed about this person.
And we will get to that. There's a lot of theories
all
of
right.
people you may or may not know, that may or may not have lived. I'm not saying this is true or false, because according to what they have, may or may not have lived in the area at the time.
President Henry Taft.
You're so right, Matt. Yes. You're so right. All right, so let's get to the first victim, Carmen Cohen. Carmen Cohen was 10 years old. She was a Puerto Rican girl who spoke little English and lived with her grandparents in Rochester. She was a good girl who often ran errands in the neighborhood for her grandfather, Felix Cohen. The same was on the case the day that she disappeared. She was running an errand for her grandmother on November 6, 1971, when she did not return home. Carmen Cohen disappeared around 4:20 p.m. while returning home from the pharmacy in Rochester, New York. According to eyewitnesses, Cohen entered the pharmacy her grandmother had sent her to, but then she learned that the prescription wasn't ready. And they said, come back when it is ready. And the store owner, Jack Corbin, remembers her saying, I gotta go. Those are the exact words that the store owner said that she said. So afterwards, eyewitnesses observed that she entered a car parked close to the pharmacy, only to never be seen again. Then around 7:50 p.m., Cohen was reported missing to the Rochester Police Department. Not to forget that approximately 50 minutes after Cohen left the pharmacy, many motorists driving along Interstate 490 observed that Carmen was undressed down to a shirt, running from a reversing dark-colored Ford Pinto hatchback. She seemed frantic, waving her arms, shouting, maybe asking someone to stop and help her escape. Unfortunately, no one stopped. Matt, do you think that this was out of fear, or why do you think that nobody pulled over to help her?
I think people are just jerks sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm surprised back in that time. Because I
Yeah.
feel like nowadays it would be more common that somebody's like,
But
I
it's the
wanna
middle
touch
of the
that.
daylight, too.
Yeah, middle of the day. There's a bunch
Yeah.
of people around. I'm surprised that nobody, especially again at that time, I feel like people were a lot more like neighborly.
Yeah.
So
They were.
that's a little strange.
And a lot of these towns upstate upstate New York,
Yeah, small
are very
towns.
close.
Yeah.
And they're not as afraid, I would say, as like we would be
Mm.
stopping and helping somebody. Like they are not as like uptight, let me mind my business, because there's a lot of people here. I get it. I do get where they also come from. You're like, it's a highway. So you're going pretty fast. But if you do see a kid, like it's, yes, it could be your kid, but then why would that kid be naked? You know, like, and running and screaming and waving their hands. Like, it's like prime what they teach you, like this person needs help. But I was taught, like, as a woman and as a girl, that if you ever needed help, to never scream help, to always scream fire or like something else, because nobody will come and help you if you scream help. Like, it's just like, I guess, a psychological thing that people have embedded in themselves, that they don't want to get hurt or they don't want to conflict with other people. So I think that could be one of the reasons why somebody wouldn't have stopped. So after 2 days, when humanity had completely failed this child, 2 teenage boys discovered her half-naked body laying in a street not far from Interstate 490. It was the village of Churchville. This particular location was around 12 miles away from the location where Cohen had been seen alive for the last time. Also, her coat was discovered in a, they word it differently. It's like a sore of a drain, which is the drainage trench, around 300 feet from her body, while her trousers were discovered close to a service road where numerous motorists had observed her on November 30th. After the autopsy was conducted, it was revealed that she had been SA'd, unfortunately, but that was not the end of it. It turned out that she had suffered fractures to her skull as well as one of her vertebrae before she was unfortunately strangled to death. Furthermore, there were numerous marks of fingernail scratches on her whole body. The public outrage after the murder was for the way that she was brutally deprived of her right to live, and the fact that not a single person stopped to help her when they saw her running for her life on the road. 2 New York newspapers, the Times-Union and Democrat and Chronicle, initially offered a combined reward of $2,500 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of her murderer. And all information each publication received was related to police. Relayed to police. Numerous local businesses and residents added private donations to the reward fund, gradually leading to the sum exceeding $6,000. Though police interrogated several suspects in the months following Cohen's murder, including her uncle, no individual was charged with her murder, and by December 21st, the number of investigators assigned to the case full-time dropped to 3. So you can go to the next slide. So this was the actual poster that they had up, saying that you can report anonymously. You don't have to leave your name. We don't even want to know that. We just want, justice for her. So this is the early 1972. 5 large billboards were put alongside the major roads, as you can see, of expressways. Each bore an 8-foot picture of her alongside the headlines, "Do you know who killed Carmen Cohen?" Rochester's outdoor advertising company gave free use to these billboards. For a month, each of these billboards mentions a $6,000 reward for information leading to the arrest. Unfortunately, there was no leads that led to anybody being caught. Even though it led to new leads, the murder was never caught. Billboards, hotline tips. Do you think that these public campaigns actually help in the cases like this, or do you think they just create noise?
I thought they did, because I remember, or I could be wrong, I swear, the lost kids on milk cartons help some kids get located.
I heard that some people identified themselves as stolen kids from the milk carton. So it does help, although in this case it didn't, because unfortunately at this time she was not a missing person. So I get it, but this murder felt very rushed. It felt like he like this was one of his first, or he didn't plan so hard and it was kind of like...
I mean, after having that episode on the side of the road and potentially having his identities seen and everything, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of understandable him doing that, but...
It wouldn't be the last time either that he would be seen on the side of the road.
That's crazy that all these people seen this guy, and if they're in a smaller town, nobody is like, oh, that's Earl from down at the pub or whatever.
They even have several sketches of him in different angles, and they still
couldn't find this guy.
They still couldn't find the guy. Okay, so we're going to move on to our second victim, Wanda Walkovich. Our second victim in the alphabet case was 11-year-old Wanda. She was known around the neighborhood in Rochester as a strong, independent kid. She had red hair and weighed around 65 pounds. However, Wanda had taken on responsibilities that most children wouldn't. After losing her father to a heart attack years earlier, she often helped her mother by running errands and going grocery shopping. On the evening of April 2nd, 1973, a year and a half after Carmen Cullen's murder, Wanda disappeared as well. It was around 5 p.m. when she left her home on the east side of Rochester to buy groceries. The owner of the deli said says they remember seeing her walking away with her bag of items at 5:15. From where she headed down Corkley Ave alone, but never made it back home. By 8 p.m., her mother Joyce contacted the police and reported her missing, and a full-scale search began almost immediately. Around 50 officers canvassed the area near her home and along the Genesee River, which is a major river in upstate, especially the places Wanda was known to frequent, but the search didn't turn up much. Does this surprise you how quickly a child can vanish despite all the officers and neighbors watching? Or does that just show how fast these things can happen?
I'd say yeah, because there was a case where it was like that boy in the Jewish community, and this random guy who was just like, oh, you want to go to like a party or whatever, scooped him up, took him to the party, and then unfortunately it didn't really end well. He was missing kid for like a couple of days.
Yeah.
Then they obviously found the guy immediately, and woof.
Yeah, but it's like so...
It's quick.
Yeah, and as you can see, she doesn't look like... She looks like a little kid, and that's what really impacted me during this, is like I couldn't look at this, because I was like, I remember being that age and not thinking that anybody would grab me off the street, no matter how much they warned me.
I always remember that from my mother. She instilled that for me from a very young age. She's never talked to anybody, always stayed by an adult or by my side. Then that was it. Otherwise, they're going to do the essay and the murder. And so I was always terrified to go anywhere.
When growing up from experience upstate, I didn't think there was enough room for, like, I think there was too much room for somebody to like take you. It's like, it only happens to kids in the city. And Rochester is a city, but not a city by our standard, or a city by anybody who lives in a city standard. It is, nowadays I can attest it's an okay part of the city. I want to say okay, but from what I've heard back then, it wasn't the amazing part of the city, upstate city, let me say. So so we'll get back. So as the investigation begins, many neighbors recall seeing her. Several even remembered watching a young girl struggling with the weight of the bags that she was carrying. And she was on Avenue B. Not just that, a few kids from her school even saw her stop and rest a bag on a fence to get a better grip. As she did that, a brown car was seen passing by, and the next morning around 10:15, the police discovered her body. This was a shock to her family and the rest of the neighbors. She was found near Route 104 in Webster. Remember Webster? And Churchville the other girl was found matching the initials in her name. About 7 miles from where she disappeared. Also, the police found her. She was found several miles from where she disappeared. Also, the police found her body at the end of a slope, lying in a way that showed she was either thrown from a moving car or pushed out of a moving car. So he didn't even stop to take her out of the car. He just pushed her, killed her, pushed her out like garbage. The medical examiner later confirmed what everybody had feared. Wanda had also been essayed. and then strangled from behind, most likely with a belt or a similar object. She had signs of struggle, bruising, and marks showed that she fought back. Furthermore, the autopsy also showed that she had been dressed again after death. So he essayed her and then redressed her again. According to the DNA evidence was recovered. So somebody's DNA evidence was recovered, including semen and also cat hair, believe it or not. Long, semen, pubic hair, and cat fur on her clothes. Her family did not own a cat. They didn't even own a pet with white fur. So this is another thing that will repeat over and over in these cases. What do you make of the white cat hair, Matt? Is there a specific detail? That's very specific detail. Could it have been a clue from where she was taken, you think?
Well, I mean, if it's like the not stereotyping cat people, sometimes they're known to be a little loners.
That's what I'm thinking.
Either that, or it could have been a family person that had a cat, because people love cats. I don't know.
And it's more than one crime scene where they found the cat hair.
That's unusual.
Yeah. So
was it an Angora? Was it an Angora cat?
They say white cat hair. They didn't exactly say what kind of cat, but cats with long hair.
Sounds like an Angora.
Yeah, you like Matt's like, I know what kind of cat he has. In response, the police set up an anonymous hotline and began circulating flyers too. They also offered a $10,000 reward now that could lead to an arrest. Witnesses slowly came forward. One person remembers seeing a girl matching Wanda's description, talking to somebody in the passenger side window of a brown vehicle, just blocks from her house. Another caller to the hotline says that she saw a man force a girl with red hair into a light-colored Dodge Dart, also on Corkley Ave. Same Ave as the other girl was last seen. Same Ave. Between 5:30 and 6 p.m. that same evening. Initially, Rochester police ignored the existence of connection between Wanda's case and Carmen's case, which unfortunately seems like this gets me angry.
It's kind of ignorant.
It is ignorant.
Because it's like, all right, if two girls go missing, it's like, all right, there's already kind of like a pattern going on.
Same age, same connecting initials, same way that they're killed, same, like, you're going to tell me there's no, it's like, I get it. You have to kind of be skeptical, but like,
come on, it's kind of like...
even the public is seeing it.
Yeah, what's the saying? It's like, once is coincidence, like second time is like a pattern or whatever.
Yeah, and third time is a mistake that they made. And they still do it to this day. There's 100 cases where I was just reading about one or researching one where it's still ongoing right now, just over the pond from us, where it is continuing bodies showing up, and they're like, no, not connected. They're like, yeah, but they're all in the same region, so you can't say that anymore. And they're all like women. But like, moving on. So what happened next was that to help the murderer get caught, local TV stations, WOKR, produced a half-an-hour reenactment of the abduction, discovery of the body, and aired it on October 21st. The public appeals for new leads and successfully generated over 200 tips, but sadly, none of them helped solve the case. So now we're going to move on to victim 3. Michelle. So in the slides in the picture, it shows...
That's where they found her?
That's where they found her, yeah. So I couldn't find the first one, but this is where they found her. So down the embankment, you can kind of see where he would have just thrown her on the side. So we're going to move on to victim 3. This is Michelle Meneza. About 7 months after Wanda's case, on the evening of November 26, 1973, 11-year-old Michelle Menza didn't come home from school, and panic arose. Not wasting any time, her mother, Carol, called the police and reported her missing. The police immediately began an investigation, and it turns out that after school around 3:20 p.m., Michelle had told her classmates she was heading to a nearby shopping plaza. Her mom had accidentally left her purse in a store earlier that day, and Michelle, being the very thoughtful girl that she was, wanted to go back and pick it up for her mom. Not long after, maybe 10 minutes later, someone saw her in a passenger seat of a beige or tan car that was speeding down Ackerman Street. The car turned onto Webster Ave, and according to eyewitnesses, the girl inside appeared to be crying. Then around 5:30 the same evening, the driver of a tan car was spotted pulled over on Route 350 in Walsworth, a town just next to Rochester. The guy standing next to the car was holding a young girl by the wrist. The driver was about to stop and offer help, but then the man quickly moved the girl behind him, almost like he was hiding her, and at the same time, he shifted his body to block the license plate. The driver said the man gave him such an intense, threatening look that he thought it was just better to drive off. 2 days later, around 10:30 in the morning, Michelle's body was found lying face down in a ditch along a rural road of Macedon, about 15 miles from Rochester. She was fully clothed, but an autopsy showed that she was sexually assaulted and strangled with a thin, maybe cord or rope, kind of similarities between Wanda's case and her case.
And they're like, there's still
no connections.
There's no pattern.
Yeah, so they also reported that she was beat the worst out of all of them. She was beat very badly. Just like Wanda's case, the white cat hair was found on her clothes as well, even though her family, just like Wanda, didn't own a cat and didn't own any animals with white fur.
Okay, he's just like traveling around with his cat.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know. But a person having a pet, I can tell you now, the fur gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Even when I don't want it, when I'm like, I just rolled my whole thing, I'm telling you, it gets everywhere, regardless. So what do you think, Matt? Is there any chance that both these girls were taken to the same places by the perpetrator? Or do you think he's just doing it randomly in his car as fast as he can?
I don't know. I mean, if he's dumping these kids off in these random spots, it does seem like it's in his car. He's doing whatever he's doing, and then that's kind of like it. Like he's like getting rid of everything as soon as possible. Do you know that the investigators found leaves in one of her hands that match a tree and plants near the ditch, which means she probably was killed right there. These types of scenarios play with the mind. Imagine being taken to a certain location, being assaulted, and being left behind in a dark ditch. The poor girl was only 11 years old, just like Wanda, just like Carmen, and was exposed to intense brutality. Why do you think he stopped at these three? It almost seems like he just disappeared. Maybe somebody killed him.
Yeah, that's it. He either died or he moved someplace else.
That's a little, that would suck. Is there anything that correlates to like a nearby area?
No, other than the leaves and them saying that she was killed right there.
But like in another state, is there any like similar? All right,
we'll get there. We're on our way to there. So also, forensic investigators did also find DNA semen on Michelle's body and underwear. And in particular, a palm print was recovered from her neck. He choked her so bad that he left a palm print on her neck. And the test also showed that one person had assaulted her, not more than one. So that proved that it was only one person so far. They also looked at what Michelle had eaten. And it turned out that she had a hamburger with onions about an hour before she died. Okay, this lines up with records from a fast food place in Pennsfield where someone matching her description was seen around 4:30 p.m. with a white man with dark hair, mid-20s, mid-30s, or 6 feet tall. The same man, that same man and girl were also possibly spotted along Route 350 shortly after that. So what do you think of that so far, Matt? Before I get into the investigation,
that there's no security cameras around this time.
It was
still
70s.
Too early.
It's still very early.
Still in its infancy. Not
no
many people
phones.
have security cameras. No CCTV. No nothing.
Nothing. They have eyewitnesses.
But there's many people in this burger place, right?
They have eyewitnesses. They have a sketch of the guy. This is how it's, unfortunately, if it was today, they would have gotten him. But unfortunately, back then, as you can see by the photos, they're still black and white. It's verging on not having like the cameras all over the place like we do now. So they start the investigation. After her murder, Michelle's murder, things hit a new level. The community was shaken by the deaths of Carmen and Wanda. But this third murder, it sent people into a full-on panic. Parents in Rochester weren't letting their kids walk alone anymore. Kids who used to play outside freely are now being walked to school, picked up, and watched closely. Police and media started calling them the double initial murders. And the pattern was terrifying. All 3 girls had matched first and last initials. All were young, all came from struggling Catholic families, and had recently been dealing with stuff like bullying or trouble at school. And each body was found in a rural area far from where they were taken. After Michelle's death, police released a composition sketch based on multiple witnesses. People had seen her with a man just before their disappearance. They also set up a tip line promising full
anonymity.
Anonymity. There you go. There was even a reward offered for any tips that would lead to an arrest. And they got a lot of calls, but still nothing read through a real suspect. So you can see by the next picture. So I have a picture here kind of showing you where all the bodies were found. Rochester's right in the middle. So you can kind of see Carmen Cullen was found there in the town that starts with a C. Michelle was found over here where the town starts with an M, and Wanda was found in a town that starts with a W. So not only did their initials match, but the towns that they were found in had the same initial as their first and last name too. So there was a lot of stuff going on right now in the investigation. Over time, police questioned 800 people. 800. But they could not make a solid connection. No arrests, no charges, just more dead ends. They started to wonder if the killer might had inside knowledge of how to approach these kids. All 3 girls were vulnerable in some way. So maybe the guy worked for, or at least understood, social services or the school system. Someone who knew how to gain their trust, just enough to get them into the car and away. But despite all efforts, the killer, or if chance killers, have never been caught. Do you think this points to a highly calculated offender, or just someone who got lucky, or maybe just moved away?
I don't know. If this person's able to do it 3 times, I feel like he's got to have skill. What I don't understand is why does he got to go after the good kids? Can't he go after the bullies?
It almost feels suspicious to me.
Right.
I mean, it is suspicious. There's a lot of things that match. Like, honestly, all the girls were 11 years old. They would have all been in the same grade. They would have all, why?
But they didn't go to school together.
No,
they just were from different towns, had similar initials as the town that their bodies were left, and that's
both
about
first and last name initials.
First, last name
and
initials.
The place where they were found was the same letter that their first and last initials were. It feels very, calculated to me. Maybe not, but they would have to know that their first and last name initials
I don't understand
matched.
how this person was able to find, that's really,
alarm bells.
strange that he was like, what's your name? Oh, you got double, so your initials match if your first and your last name. Come in my car, I'll grab you a burger.
You know what really gets me is I'm thinking, so these kids came from rougher families. Their moms were single mothers. I'm almost curious if this was social services. Somebody who worked in social services would know the names of the kids, would know the families, would know that they're struggling, would know that their first and last initials matched, would know how old they are. They would have all that information, which is scary. So you can scroll on the next one and you'll see the sketch of the guy. So these are the sketches that came from...
Guy does look like a creeper. He kind of looks
Yeah.
like the sailor from I Know You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's a coincidence. And it's like, that's the kind of jacket and the kind of shirt somebody who lives upstate would wear, you know, from experience.
His galosh boots.
It looks like a normal, like, he looks weird, but he also looks like a guy who just, you know...
He just looks like a
guy.
tough,
Yeah,
rough and tumble, like, country
guy.
person that, definitely I wouldn't be able to handle.
No.
So I'd be like,
No,
I'm
thank
going to call the police on this person.
So we have a couple theories and or suspects. Some, Matt, you may have heard of. Some you may not have heard of. Okay, so we're going to start with our first suspect right here. His name is Miguel Cohen. Actually, this is not Miguel Cohen. I'm so sorry. They don't have a picture of him. This is Carmen's uncle.
Oh.
Talking about suspects, Miguel, the uncle of 10-year-old Carmen, was one of the earliest ones in 1971 murder. Back then, Miguel Cohen was in a relationship with Carmen's mom. Right around the time of her disappearance, he had a beige car, and the same kind of car witnesses said they saw near Carmen when Carmen was last seen. The police searched his car. They found something odd. It had just been cleaned from top to bottom.
Well,
and Carmen's doll was still inside. That was enough to raise some serious red flags. But what made things even more suspicious is what he did next. He, just 4 days after, he decided to just take off and fly back to Puerto Rico. He didn't stick around to answer questions, which strengthens the suspicion that he was connected to the murder. Later under pressure, he did come back and turn himself in, but the investigators asked where he'd been the day Carmen went missing, and he went silent. He couldn't give a clear answer or provide valid, credible alibi, and no one else could vouch for his whereabouts either. Even with all that, the car, the flight, the lack of alibi, there was no physical evidence connecting him to the crime. Not a fingerprint, not DNA, nothing. So while he stayed at the top of the suspect list for years, he was never charged. Never. Also, Miguel died by he self-exited.
Oh.
In 1991 after completely unrelated violent incident. And Carmen's family, they always believed him to be innocent. With no new evidence and the main suspect gone, her case is still unsolved and officially still open. If the family believed Miguel was innocent, do you think they knew something investigators didn't, or do you think they were just in denial that he did that?
Probably denial. I mean, if he's a nice enough guy and he's like a sociopath that's able to chameleon his way into, anything.
It's just the thing that sticks with me about almost all of these is the DNA that they found never matched any of the people, which kind of throws like a wrench in it. It's like your things could line up all they want, but if that DNA does not match, it's like, was there more than one person? We won't know. Okay, so this guy is our next
Whoa.
fugitive. No, back.
Oh.
Sorry. This guy is the next
He's the next
suspect.
guy?
Yes.
Oh,
I couldn't find the picture of her uncle.
Oh.
I couldn't find a picture of her uncle.
All right.
They just kind of lock and key that.
Whoops. There we go.
Okay.
I was going to say, man, this guy's uncle, was the picture of him after they caught him?
No. This guy's name is James Barber, an Ohio fugitive with a violent history. Now let's talk about another name that comes up early in the investigation, James Barber. He was a man with serious troubling history out of Ohio, and he popped up on the radar not long after Carmen was killed. At the time, Barber was working in the same area where Carmen was last seen. But right after the murder, he disappeared from Rochester. And the fact that he left most of his stuff and belongings behind got detectives' attention. Then there was something strange about his timeline. Instead of clocking in normally that day, the day Carmen went missing, he filled it in by hand. So back then when you actually had to physically clock in, he filled in the time he left by hand. So he didn't clock that day. It could be a coincidence, but investigators thought that he was suspicious.
A little odd.
Like maybe he was trying to cover this up where he was. And to make matters worse, Barber already had an outstanding warrant in Ohio for sexually assaulting a 15-year-old girl. That gave the police even more reason to look hard at him.
Especially when that's like what happened with Gacy. Gacy
Yes.
was originally doing bad things with kids, and the only reason they caused him to kill him was, obviously getting caught in jail.
Yes, but then they searched his apartment. They didn't find anything. No signs, no clues, no evidence connecting him to Carmen's murder. Nothing stuck. He was never arrested for it and eventually faded off the suspect list. From what we know, he died years later, and without any solid link to the crime, police closed the book on him, and he was no longer a suspect. Next photo. This guy's name is Dennis Termini. This is possibly his photo. From what I investigated, this is what a lot of people are like, this is possibly his photo. They don't exactly have...
Oh, it's not even 100%?
They don't even know. So up next is Dennis Termini. And this one sent shockwaves through the community. On the surface, he was a Rochester firefighter, someone you'd think of a local hero. But behind the uniform, Termini was hiding a dark secret. He was a man behind several violent essays on teenage girls in the area. People started calling him, if you don't want to hear this, you don't have to hear it. They called him the garage rapist. That's what they called him. Because of where many of his attacks happened. Now, here's where things start to overlap. He drove a tan car, which happened to match the description of the vehicle seen near at least two of the crime scenes. And get this, he lived pretty close to where Michelle lived, the third victim, was last seen where she was last seen alive. Investigators also found out that he kept his firefighter uniform in his car. That detail made them wonder if he used his status as a firefighter to build trust with the young girls to come with him.
But which one of these guys had a cat?
They never even... we don't even get there. They don't, there's nothing. And then things got even more disturbing when just a few weeks after Michelle's murder, Termini tried to abduct another girl. But this time, the police were ready, and they closed in on him. And rather than facing arrest, he self-exited himself and died, obviously, and instantly put himself at the top of the suspect list for a while. And it looks like they may have found their guy. But years later, forensic technology caught up with the case. Investigators had presented DNA evidence of Wanda's murder. They exhumed Termini's body and tested his DNA, and there was no match. This led him to being ruled out of Wanda's case completely. Unfortunately, they don't have testable DNA of Carmen and Michelle's cases anymore. So they can't confirm or deny his involvement there. But with one matchable case, excluding him, he was dropped off the radar as the main suspect. Still, that doesn't erase how much suspicion surrounded him.
Can't they just exhume the corpses?
They don't have any tangible evidence of the DNA that was found on their bodies. It deteriorated by that point. But, sorry, 1 minute. It kicked me out.
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So they don't have any DNA for Carmen and Michelle's cases anymore. So that dropped him off the suspect list. And still, that doesn't erase how much suspicion surrounded him, especially with his background and how close he came to being caught right after the third murder. So the next person we have on our list is somebody you might know. His name is Kenneth Benchi. He was known as the Hillside Strangler.
Oh, wow.
You might know him. As soon as they said his name, I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that he existed. Okay, so our other suspect is Kenneth Benchi. Matt, here's where you could possibly recognize him. He's one of half of the duo behind the infamous Hillside Strangle murders in California in the late 70s.
Horrible people.
But before that, he grew up in Rochester. And during the time of the Alphabet murders, he was living there and worked as an ice cream truck driver. Yeah, in the same neighborhood where the girls were abducted. Creepy, right? Once Bacchini was arrested years later for the brutal murders of California murders in California, investigators started looking back at unsolved cases. They even looked at the Alphabet murders. The idea that someone capable of those crimes had been in Rochester at the right time with access to children and driving around in the similar vehicles to the one seen in. So it pretty much raised alarms for them. However, the only real forensic clue from Michelle's case was a particular palm print, but it didn't match his. So despite the geographic overlap and the disturbing pattern in his later crimes, there was just no hard evidence tying him to the murders. Also, he denied any involvement, and the police had said that while he was definitely on the radar, nothing ever placed him at any of the crime scenes. He currently served several life sentences in California where he's locked up for good. Do you think Baccini being in Rochester at the time is just creepy coincidence, or do you think he might have been involved?
I don't know if they're not able to, that they DNA tested him and everything came out clear. Yeah. That's a little strange.
He even said after he was caught and convicted, he was like, nah, I didn't do any of those.
I kind of feel like he would gloat about it if he did.
I would think so too. I think they just pinned him because he lived there and his main way of execution is strangling. That's very, compared to other people, that's very like, it's coincidental. Don't get me wrong. He was there at the right time in the right place.
It's like super brutal because it's like you're.
Yeah, and from what I read, he didn't kill girls. It kind of overlapped. Like from what I read, he murdered women who were between the ages of 13 and like 21, I want to say. So it was bordering on where he was, but it wasn't that exact. And knowing serial killers, sometimes they're random. Most of the time they know what they're doing. So the next guy we have is also a serial killer.
Yeah.
His name is Joseph Nazo. He is a serial killer with an eerie, similar pattern. Lastly, we have Joseph Nazo, a serial killer who operated in California and became a suspect in the Rochester murder because of coincidence, which was that the women he killed all had names with matching initials, just like the victims in Rochester. One of his known California victims, was even named Carmen Cullen, the same name of the first victim. Nazo was born in New York and had lived in Rochester during the same periods of the murder. For a while, he was a man of interest to the New York investigators. However, they noticed that his victims were adults and what's a nicer word to put this? They worked on the streets. Unlike the preteen girls' murders in Rochester, more importantly, the DNA from Wanda's body didn't match him. And while Nazo kept disturbing journals that outlined his crimes, there was no reference to any one of these Rochester attacks. Despite these superficial similarities, the police eventually ruled him out. Today, he remains in prison in California for the California killings and has never been formally charged in connection with alphabet murders. And so this is what he looks like. Not a pleasant man to look at. He also doesn't look like the sketches at all. Even his younger pictures or when he was there, he did not look like any of the sketches. So what do you think about Joseph Nazo, Matt? Same MO, same initials. Would you rule him out?
Especially if the DNA evidence isn't there. I don't know. It's just strange that unless they actually know somebody that's like tampering with the stuff, or somebody already like messed up, and they're like, "Hey, we'll just take this DNA and test it." That's a little weird. I don't know.
These guys are very interesting, and I just want to leave a comment for everybody watching that if you guys want to know more about these crimes, I can do my research into these horrific crimes also. So just drop a comment in the comments below if you want to hear more about these people. So now I turn to the psychological take, because you really, as an investigator, have to get into the details of what happened, how certain crimes are more personal than others. It kind of gives you a description and a shape of a person. Like you can almost see the person when you look at it this way. So I wrote a section on kind of like a psychological take on everything. So strangulation is one of the most common methods used in sexually motivated homicidal crimes involving children. It's a method that gives the offender full control over the victim and doesn't require any weapon. It's direct, physical, and often chosen because of how vulnerable the victims are. Offenders may target someone who is physically weak, someone less likely to fight back or escape. There's evidence to support this pattern. In Kings County, Washington, in 1995 to 2022, just under a quarter of all homicide victims were women. But when it came to strangulations, 80% of the victims were women, and the victims were children. That number was even higher. In cases involving male victims, offenders most likely used guns or knives, but in female and children victims, strangulation was way more common. Strangulation can also be a weapon of opportunity. It doesn't require planning or preparation. If the offender is impulsive or fueled by sudden rages, they don't need to bring anything with them. Their hands or whatever's nearby can be used. Researchers describe some of the killers as opportunistic and angry. They might be dealing with personal stresses or rejection and then take it out on the victims who happen to come across their path. But there's also another layer. Some of these offenders are sadistic. They gain satisfaction from controlling the victims, both physical and psychological. From offenders that have the mindset, strangulation isn't just about killing, it's about power. In some cases, that power is also linked to sexual excitement. In 2020 case, they found about 25% of child-targeted sexual homicides, the offenders show signs of sadism. Instead of using physical torture, they might rely on fear, manipulation, dominating the victims, often to take advantage of the children's daily routines, like walking home or running errands. Wanda, Carmen, and Michelle were each going about their normal day when they were abducted. All three were found strangled and left near a road or field. These details line up with what we know about offenders who commit these types of crimes. Someone was watching, someone was waiting, and when the opportunity came, they took it. The method, the timing, the locations, all of that points to someone who knew what they were doing, someone who had done it before, and someone who might have done it again. What do you think, Matt? Does this feel more like an opportunistic or a sadistic planner to you?
I mean, it seems a little bit of both, but it's also kind of like this guy had to have known their patterns, and it's also he had to have known them in order to be like, all right, I don't know how, because it's too strange that he's stumbling upon a random girl that has the same initials of their first and their last name, and then he just picks them up serendipitously.
It feels very random and very planned. It's like almost like the aspect of finding them was planned.
Yeah.
And the aspect of taking them was random.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was almost like right time, right place kind of thing. So these are one of those cases which will always haunt people because the killer was not caught. And no one even knows if the killer is alive or not, which the case being 50 years old, in that case being 50 years old. And the weirdest part to me is that the case just stopped. No more victims. How do you sleep at night knowing the person who did this might still be out there?
And it's strange that all these people that were accused just, off themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-exits in this case. There's a lot of, I still don't think they found the person. I think they tried their hardest to connect. They just don't have the DNA, and therefore every suspect they have until they match that DNA is never going to count because because the DNA, because it was so specific what DNA they got, like the semen they got from the assays, it becomes like now we have to focus on the DNA matching, which at this point I'm not sure that we'll ever get, unfortunately. So there was a lot of other stuff that came up that I researched later on, where there was some people who did go missing right after that, and they were a little bit older. They were a little bit older, more like teens, who went missing with the same double initials. after that, there was, if you do want to research a little bit more, there was more that were hearsay that were kind of connected, but it was way after. And then there was a case where a little girl lived in an apartment building and her neighbor took her. She happened to have the 2 A's. Her mom was a single mom. Like, it all lined up, but nothing really stuck. And it still haunts that community today. Some of the family still lives there, and it does shake up a community. So if you enjoyed this mystery, you'll also enjoy our current top 10 true crime cases that we can't stop thinking about, which you'll find in the link in the description below. And we really appreciate you tuning in. Please drop a comment on anything that you want to hear. We do listen. So stay safe. Stranger danger.
Don't let your kids go out alone.
Don't let your kids go out alone. More of the story. All right, everybody, stay safe. Thank you for tuning in.